Hey guys, welcome to this live. Already live on YouTube. Instagram is just catching up. It's always a little bit slower there. As ever with these, I've got 30 minutes, and in that time, I will try and answer as many of your questions as I possibly can, relating to all things money. Obviously, there are some things that I can't talk about just because that's not my specialism, or maybe I can point you in a better direction. So it may well be that I send you over there. The ground rules pretty much are, if you've not been to one of these before, is to read your question first of all before you press enter, because that helps so much. Quite often there are times when there's a grammar error, a typo, or spread over two questions and it gets a bit confusing. So before you press enter, read your question again, make sure it all makes sense, but also prioritize it. Please do just ask one question, because we never get through all the questions in these sessions. So I do generally, if you've got 2 or 3 questions there, I might only answer one of them. See how we're doing. If I can, I will obviously will try my best. What I'll also be doing quite often here is reminding you that a lot of the information that I'm talking about now, or maybe won't talk about, is over on our website, becleverwithyourcash.com. So head over there, sign up to our newsletter. It comes out every Thursday morning. Sometimes just keeping across that, getting that every week in your inbox on a Thursday morning at 7 a.m. will answer your questions, and you'll know to go back and check things on the site rather than needing to hope that I'm able to answer your questions here. So let's get going, shall we? And already we have a question here from Mark. And Mark says, is Halifax going to launch a welcome bonus for switching to their account? So the news here, and I shared this in the community. In fact, one of our followers in our Facebook group did share this already, just at the weekend, and I've already had the information confirmed from Lloyds. So we've got that the article live on the website already. There is a Lloyds bank switching offer starting on Wednesday. This is worth £200. Now, I will do a full video on this tomorrow. I don't want to do it too early because otherwise people get a bit confused. But if I do it on Tuesday night with all the information, all the details for Wednesday morning, that's a bit easier. But why am I talking about a Lloyds switching offer when you're asking me about a Halifax offer? And that's because Lloyds and Halifax and Bank of Scotland are effectively the same bank. They're part of the same banking group. And if you do get a switching offer from one of them, it rules you out of getting a switcher from the other. So for all intents and purposes, if you're looking for money from that group, doesn't matter if it's Halifax or Lloyds, because remember, you get the switch in cash, but you can also open up separate accounts for the other features out there as well. So good news, Lloyds have got one starting on Wednesday. If you don't want to wait for the video on Tuesday, there is an article at becleveryourcash.com right now taking you through how that one works and who can get it. It's always funny. The first few minutes is really slow, and then suddenly the questions all flow through. Mini Mad says, evening, Andy. Hey, Mini Mad, a regular here. Andrew says, hi, Andy. I noticed via email and app that Hilton Hotels has launched 2 debit cards, which you may be aware of. The way it has been set up makes it sound like a better version of Curve. Any thoughts on this? Yeah, so this is something. So actually, if you're a regular, you might have realised I've been not around so much over the last few weeks. I was away for a couple of weeks. I was around all last week, but I was catching up a lot. So this is something that I've got on my list to look at. It may well be, depends how good it is. It might just be something that I include in my regular monthly current account and banking update article and video, which is probably going to be next week. But if it is really good, I'm going to try and have a look at it this week. Then I will obviously let you guys know. Again, Hilton Hotels. Unless you travel a lot and go to places like that, I'm not a big fan of those cards, the Amex, Hilton, and all that. No, it's Marriott, is it? Marriott, Amex. Not a fan of these ones because I'd rather get money and spend it elsewhere. But if this is something you can add on top of other cards and double your earnings, then it sounds like it would be no harm giving it a go, right? But I'll let you know sooner rather than later. Mark says, what's the best easy access ISA? So, over at becleverwithyourcash.com/savings, we have a big, long list of all the top savings accounts of all the different types, including the highlights of the ISAs. We also have a separate Best Buy tables for ISAs as well. So my recommendation would be go over there and look at the top options. But when you say best, that also is kind of a hard question so many times, because what do you mean by best? I normally take best as what's the highest paying. Now, there may be all sorts of caveats that come into play there that restrict you slightly. So best might be limited access rather than full easy access. Best might be a fix. I mean, it's not right now, but it could. You know what I mean? All these kind of things. But if you're looking for the best, well, you're saying easy access there, but the best easy access right now, off the top of my head, I believe is still Trading 212's ISA. I think it's paying 5.1%. That's the top paying one. That is a cash ISA. So it's not like there are other savings accounts where it's slightly more complicated. It's a proper cash ISA rather than the investment one where you hold cash in it. Chip is not too far behind at 5%. This is a limited access one with only 3 transfers in a year. But again, the best ones, all the others, top paying ones, are all listed over on our ISAs page on the website. Let's check you guys over on Insta, because again, it all scrolls through so quickly. Go back and check if there's any questions. You guys on Instagram, you're always much more likely to lurk, which is fine. But I don't want to make sure I miss any of you. No questions there so far, but hello everyone who's watching. Lovely to see you. Diego says, I've been rejected twice for the co-op switch and they did not give me a reason. My credit score looks all right, so I'm not sure what is wrong. Should I retry this time? That's interesting. If you've been rejected twice from the same organisation for a current account, we're not even talking about a credit card or a loan or a mortgage here, that suggests to me there is something there that's going on that is not right. So you may already have done this, Diego. Apologies if you have, but I would be checking all of my credit reports. Now you can check your Experian one. You can check Equifax one for free, no charge at all, from ClearScore. Other places do it as well, but ClearScore is the one I generally go to. And I'll also be checking your TransUnion credit score. Now you can do that directly with them via a service called Credit Karma or Money Saving Experts Credit Club. That also now uses your TransUnion credit report. But start off, look at those two. Look for anything that's wrong. I know you're checking your score, but are you checking your report as well? Any inaccuracies that might be in there, the wrong address? Has someone set something up in your name? That would be my instinct. If everything looks fine, then obviously there's something that you're putting in probably in your application form, or something they already hold on you that's making them go, now we don't want this guy as a customer. Now, if you don't, in terms of applying again, let's say if thing looks fine and you still can't work it out, if there's nothing else going on that you will need to make an application for, then yeah, you could apply again and see if you get it this time. Anything else is more important. Obviously, the more applications you make for anything with a hard credit search, and the media has just done a video explaining credit reports and credit scores the weekend. So if you can watch that, please do check that out. It's also going to be in the podcast tomorrow morning. You don't want to do too many, but if you haven't got much going on that's important, try it. But again, it will, every time you apply for something, successful or not, it will have a short-term impact on your credit report and your credit score. Looks like there is a question here on Insta. Lovely. Always like to see this. Looks like I've got half a question there from Landon. Sorry about that. Have I missed the top half of your question? Doesn't look like it. Maybe put your question in again, Landon, and hopefully I'll get it that time with the full amount. Mr. Jimmy, 2308, has a question on 40% tax relief. It's spread over a few questions, but I'll do my best here. If I pay it into a SIP with Vanguard, for example, they will top up the first 20% relief. I then need to claim the further relief via HMRC, which I can do via a telephone call. My question is when I should contact HMRC. Once after the end of the tax year, or should I contact them every time I make a payment into my SIP? Thanks. So I would be doing this sort of tax relief stuff at the end of the financial year, because it will all even out. And okay, you can do it via the phone call apparently. I mean, if you've got other things going on, it might be easiest to do it via a self-assessment tax return. I did cover this recently in a bit more detail about who needs to do it. But that is probably one of the easiest ways to do it. All the things for the year that you put in, and it gives you that figure for that year, and you can request that money back, which is the better thing to do probably than letting them adjust your tax code and increase it so you pay less tax throughout the year, because you get that money sooner. You can put it in a savings account, earn interest and things like that. Yeah, I think that's the easiest thing to do, because things can change and you might get some back and then things go the other way. And obviously we've got the budget on October the 30th. We don't know what might be, if anything, said around pension tax relief there, which I think, could change the rules. You never know. They might change things halfway through the year. It'd be a real nightmare if they did this. It seems like a very confusing world. Again, I'm not a tax expert, but for them to do something halfway through would be very, very confusing for people. So you'd hope they'd give some time to sort things out, but you never know. So yeah, I would wait until the end of the financial year and then do it all as one. Probably the best thing to do. Evelyn Mensa says, what about Moneybox? I think you're probably talking there about easy access ISAs. There is an all right paying one there, but it's not the top paying one. So if you've got it and the rate you're getting is still decent, from memory, that one has a fix for the first, a bonus for the first year. So after 12 months, the rate will reduce anyway. If it's not much of a difference and you're happy with it, then stick with it. But if it is a lower rate and you can get a lot more, and the new ISA accepts transfers in, remember, not all ISAs do accept transfers in, or if they do, you might get a lower rate. Plum, for example, their transfers in are at a lower rate than what you get for new deposits. then you might not want to do that, or you might want to look elsewhere. Let's go back up here. Brian says, hi Andy, are there any real benefits to becoming a higher taxpayer? I use salary sacrifice a lot to make me stay a basic rate taxpayer. Well, often, again, I'm not a tax expert, guys, right? So this is just stuff, I would definitely do more research on this and see what else is out there. But, there are often a lot of times when you can maintain some of those benefits of being a higher earner, such as your pension tax relief, even if you use salary sacrifice. Again, not an expert on here, so do look into that. And if you're doing a large amount of that, you might want to speak financial advice if you're doing really large sums and backdating and so on like that. Particularly also things like child benefit, the personal savings allowance, all those benefits, they kind of come after. You still get your tax relief from your pension, but then you get those benefits if you bring yourself back down to that lower tax bracket. So broadly speaking, if you can do it, I think it probably makes sense. But again, there might be things I'm not aware of there, so probably best to do some research there. Karamel, this is a really good one, actually, really timely question here. Hi Andy, can you tell us the name of the HSBC credit card that has a 10% cashback, please? So this was something which we spoke about briefly in the Your Money This Week episode of the podcast, which was on YouTube on Thursday night, on podcasting apps on Friday morning, and in our Deals of the Week on Saturday as well, which is just a grid post on Instagram and YouTube and so on. And that all links through. All the information is over in the article on the website. This 10% back on HSBC Visa credit cards ends tonight to opt in. Okay, so if you have got a Visa HSBC credit card, look at your emails, check your junk mail, check your deleted items, because that's how they would have invited you. Most likely, there might be other ways. There might be notifications or messages within the app as well in your account. But that's how we would have invited you to take part in that. And the deadline to activate it is, 11:59 p.m. Today, Friday, the 30th of September. Then, if you activate it, you earn that 10% back on those set areas of groceries and travel in October, November, and December. Okay, so really, really important. If you've got any kind of Visa HSBC card, to look and see if you were invited to this. Seems a bit weird to give such a short window to people to activate it and not let people opt in halfway through a month or something, but that's the case. And so really, it's if you are invited, so not everyone will have got it. And there are other kind of caveats as well, like you might have to spend at least 5 times, or at least 10 times, or at least 15 times on that card within each calendar month in order to trigger the overall cashback, and it's capped at £50 a month. So hopefully that helps you there. If you've got an HSBC credit cards, guys, do check that straight away today. Matisse says, I love the channel. Thank you so much for creating a little side hustle for me. Over £1,000 switching and nearly £8,000 saved since starting watching your channel and learning from others. Well, that is lovely to hear, Matisse. I'm always really pleased to know that the things I'm telling you, all this stuff, is actually making a difference. So that's really, really lovely to hear. Well done. Well done doing all that. That's great. James says, hi Andy, realistically, how much risk in terms of your credit score in the future, etc., in associated with opening a joint bank account with someone that has a similar score to you? So when it comes to joining with someone, whether it's a joint current account or a joint mortgage, potentially a loan, but not a credit card, because you can't get joint credit cards, you just get a credit card and the other person has a supplementary card, so that doesn't count. But when you're financially joining yourself together in those times, that's then reflected in your credit report. Most time, I think, if not going to make too much of a difference, right? If you're both pretty good with your money, you both got fair to decent credit scores, it's not going to make a problem for you. Where it is going to be an issue for you is if they have got debts, county court judgments, a kind of a history of missing payments, that kind of stuff. That association could well impact not just your score, because remember, the score isn't the only thing that counts. The score is just an indicator of what's underneath in the actual report. And they might say, well, I don't want to lend to them because they are associated with this person, and that person's a risk. And obviously, if they're together, then that means that person could also be put in a sort of riskier situation. That's when it's a problem, okay? And you might want to disassociate yourself. And you can do that with a whole process, financial disassociation. Sounds a bit wrong, doesn't it? But that's about roughly right, I think, with that person. So you are separated on there, and sometimes you get notes added to indicate that. Most of the time you do that when you've separated from someone or split up from someone, but you may wish to do that even if you're in a relationship with them, if you can on some products, just to kind of help boost at least your report. I mean, conversely, their report might be boosted slightly if yours is good. But I don't know how much difference that's going to make, particularly if they've got some of those more negative aspects appearing on their report. This one here says, any Amex offers? Well, there are a number of offers going on at any time. Probably they're referring to the kind of the welcome offers, those bonus boosts that are from time to time. The best one right now, and it runs, I think, until next week, so sometime in October. You have to apply via the British Airways Executive Club. You have to apply via that. It's free to join, and that's when you earn Avios points. That's where they live. But if you do that, you get 60,000 Avios rather than 30,000 Avios on the British Airways American Premium Plus. I'm going to do a credit card update video. I was going to do it this week. We've got so many bank switching deals. It might get pushed next week, but I will double check when that offer ends, because that offer does end before very soon. I will get that video done really quickly so you guys can catch up on that. I have covered it as an article on becleveryourcash.com. It just happened just before I went on holiday, so I didn't get a chance to get the video out as well. There's that. There's also a kind of a boost to the Amex cashback card. But again, I'll cover all of these in this update coming soon. There are also, actually, it's always worth having a look at your Amex offers if you've already got an account, the ones that you can activate within the app or the account. Always some interesting things popping up there. We don't get takeaways very often, but last night, £7 off a £15 spend at Just Eat. It was like a little bit extra back, makes it kind of a not quite so as an excessive thing to be doing on a Sunday to save a little bit of money there. The recent was £5 off a £15 spend with PayPal if you used your Amex via a PayPal spend. So again, always have a look at those things, as well as bigger things like money off like Hilton or whatever it might be. Ginnis says, hi Andy, what source do you use to check your credit score, and does our credit score get affected if we check? So I've already mentioned actually some of those different things earlier on. So if you missed it, you can rewind, or there is content over on the website about which ones to check. But this is really important. If you check your credit score, you are just checking your credit score. It means nothing to anyone other than you. No one knows you've done it, other than obviously, I guess, they know you've logged in and looked at it. But there are a number of ways you can do it. Sometimes banks will let you see your credit score itself, not even the whole report, just see your score in their app and stuff. It hurts you in no way to check your credit score. It hurts you in no way to check your credit report either. Okay, absolutely not. Particularly if you're doing it for free. I guess you could argue some places will charge you to check your full report, so that could hurt your wallet a little bit. Particularly if there's a monthly subscription you don't cancel. But it will not impact the data in your credit file, and that will not impact any application you make in the future. So do not be scared of this. Make it a habit of doing it. Sometimes it's a bit annoying when you get these notification emails coming through saying something has changed, and maybe you can give one or two of them a miss. But broadly speaking, it'd be great if you can check it at least once a quarter, if not once a month, across those different agencies, just to make sure there's nothing happened. Like it could be a red flag, like someone has stolen your identity, or you've missed a payment, or things like that. But yeah, absolutely, it's a really good thing to do rather than a bad thing to be doing. Okay, I know I mentioned it. I'll give you headlines again. ClearScore can check your Equifax credit report. And TransUnion, you can check your Credit Karma, can check your TransUnion one. At the moment, there's nowhere free to check your Experian report, which is a bit frustrating. But you can get your score for free directly from Experian, which could be an interesting route to go down, at least just to sort of see how things are. Keep an eye on it, I guess, for movement. Brad says, hi Andy, I have that horrible time coming up when I'm having to redo the mortgage, but need to do a lot of home improvements. My question is it better to get a remortgage than get a separate loan? So, Brad, this is one of those areas where I am not a mortgage expert, right? In terms of that debt and that long-term debt, I can give you the principles, I can talk you through various things, but this is one of those things where it really is down to the individual and your own situation. And for some people, there's pros and cons of each one. So, read more into that. Find the information where people take you through those individual ones, and then really think about the consequences of it. Obviously, if you put that extra money on your mortgage, which lots of people do for home improvements, then that debt potentially could be for 10, 15, 25 years that you're paying it off. Whereas a different loan, a shorter loan, could be, you're paying it off much quicker if you can afford it, but for a much, much higher interest rate. So you've really got to sort of marry those two out and see which one works best for you. Of course, one option you could look at is if you were to get a mortgage and add it onto a mortgage and you don't have any sort of limitations on overpayments, it could be where you can just pay that off much quicker and get that lower rate. But yeah, it's not something to be sort of like, that's one answer. It's definitely worth having a think about what might be the best option for you there. Gerald says, hi Andy, I've been doing the Lloyds bank switching since early this year, but haven't got the money with all the requirements met, even for my wife as well. And we haven't had any money there before we were customers. Any hint on what is going to be happening or what we should? Kind of broken into separate questions. Sorry, guys. Please do if you can. I know it's difficult, but if you can just do one one question before pressing enter, that would be great. Maybe you might be forced to do it sometimes by YouTube, I don't know, but much easier if it's all in one spot. Broadly, what I'll say to you there, Gerald, is to contact Lloyds and ask them what's going on, find out. It could just be a mistake, right? And they go, oh, right, no, sorry, we do owe you the money. We should have paid it to you. And if this was from early this year and they have made a mistake and not paid you the money, well, then say, well, I want some compensation on top of that. And hopefully, whether it's a goodwill gesture of a 10 or 20 quid, or whether it's something a bit more measured out, because you've been missing out on interest on that. You might be using it for something else. If their mistake, absolutely try and get that back. Of course, you may have done something wrong. There might have been some error in there. And in which case, obviously, they might be able to tell you why that is. They might not. But if you get that information, then you'll know whether you're able to take advantage of the new offer that's starting this week, of course, because that only says you can't get the money if you've had switching money from them before, not if you've switched them before, if you've had a switching incentive before. So if you've had a switch that's failed, but they're not giving you the cash, then you're eligible for the new deal. So I'd absolutely get in touch with their complaints team and say, look, I did this. I've done all these things as was set out by the thing at the time. Why have I not had the money? That should be the first thing that I would do. PST1608 says, hi Andy, are there any alternatives to premium bonds for those with an addictive personality? Do you think the price rate will fall in line with interest rate cuts? So the second part, first of all, yeah, I absolutely think the premium bond price rate is going to fall at some point. I'm surprised it hasn't already fallen. It could be any day, week or month now. It will come down at some point, not just because rates are falling elsewhere, but also because NSNI, National Savings and Investments, who are the ones, the kind of the government banks, I suppose that run premium bonds, how much money they hold is down to how much money they're required to raise from the government, and they've hit a lot of those targets, and they've reduced the rates on a lot of their other bonds and things like that recently. So they're basically saying, look, we don't necessarily need as much of your money here. Go elsewhere with it. Give you a lower rate. Want some of it, but not too much. If they've done that elsewhere, it's going to happen to premium bonds at some point, let alone the fact we are likely to see more base rate cuts coming anyway, possibly even 2 this year. In terms of alternatives, there are a few. I can't remember from the top of the head if it's still available. Family Bill and Society were running a decent paying account, which also had a prize draw element to it. So you would get a not a bad rate of interest. I think it might have been tied to the base rate actually, and then a draw. And there are a few other ones that do that. So the prizes are much smaller, but you're marrying it because you're getting an interest rate as well as the prize draw. And I prefer those to the ones like Chip's one, where it's just a prize draw and there's a few small number of prizes. Yes, you could win, but you're probably not going to win much at all. So that's to consider as well. Obviously, what's quite good about those ones which have a decent rate of interest plus a prize draw is if you do win a prize, it's going to be tax-free. So thus you might pay tax on the interest from the savings, but not on the additional money if you do win anything. So definitely do have a look at that. One Pursuit says, hi Andy, what are the complications from switching current accounts? So, we could just do a whole half an hour talking about all the different things, the pros and cons of switching, but I generally am a big fan of it, but there are some things to be aware of. I'm not going to go over them right now, but I am going to direct you to a separate video on the YouTube channel, How to Switch Banks, and an article also called How to Switch Banks. So if you go to either of those places, search for that in the little search buttons, you can find it on both of them, and that would take you through, which would take you through all the information there. The main things you need to worry about do impact your credit score, but there are other things as well in terms of potentially like your any regular payments you've got on your debit card and stuff like that. But broadly, it all goes pretty smoothly, and you get some money at the end or a better banking experience. So definitely one to look at. Let's just check you guys over on Insta. Storm Chaser 1999. That's a good name. I like that. Can you recommend anyone for life insurance that will do what they say they are going to do? So again, this is kind of one of those areas where we're sort of stepping into more of a sort of regulated finance thing, where generally, you can't sort of recommend these products. You can, you can't, but it's much harder to do. Particularly also, the reason I won't do it as well is I'm not an expert in these things, so I don't know all the different providers out there. So I would sort of maybe do a little bit of a Google, do some research, try and find a source that you trust. A website that maybe talks about those things in more detail. At least that give you an idea of which ones are better than others. But of course, with all of these things, any insurance product, they are essential, but they are frustrating. So it's very difficult to find ones which are generally sort of like really good, because broadly they don't really want to pay us, do they? They're doing it, but they will if they have to. Most of the time, you'd hope. What else we've got going on? So Mickey says, Okay, this is an investing one, but let's see what it is. If you guys don't really do investing here, but see how it happens. Mickey says, "Hi Andy, I have a Nutmeg stocks and shares ISA with a fee of 0.75%. I've had this for about 6 years. Should I move it to a cash ISA, say trading 212, etc.?" So again, this is going to be something that you've got to consider there. One of the things, obviously, about investing is that there is the opportunity to outperform savings rates, but there's also the potential for you to do worse. It really depends on what's happening with the market at any time. So there is an element of risk associated with it, but it goes both ways. And generally, the rule of thumb people say is you should be investing for the longer term rather than the short to medium term. So at least 5 years, because that gives you time. If the markets do go down, that will give you time to hopefully for that money to the markets to rally again, and you get your money back, so you aren't selling at a loss. So they're not a good thing if you're like, well, I need this money because I need to, I don't know, get a new car, fix this, go on holiday, whatever it is. So when you know you're actually something you're going to spend money on, you want that money actually there to definitely be there, then it's absolutely better in savings. The other thing to talk about here, and again, I don't know if there really is a right answer to this, is you couldn't definitely say, looking in the future, you can only tell with hindsight what was right or not. But while you can still get a rate of around 5% in cash ISAs, that's still a decent rate. So you're guaranteed to get it. Yes, overall, in hindsight, maybe the markets would outperform that, but they also could go under that. It's much, much harder when you've got relatively attractive rates around that 5% rate. It's easier when you're looking at a rate of 2% or something. But you also, won't go too much into this, the other thing to think about obviously is fees. So 0.75% does sound quite small, but I'm not across all the different tracker options you have out there. You might even be, Nutmeg is more a robo one, which is kind of puts it in, what type of appetite you risk you have, I think. But you might be able to get ones with even lower fees out there, which are just tracking the market, in which case your return could be a little bit better. So I can't give you a default answer there, but I hope that helps, gives you something to think about, and again, research a little bit more. How are we doing? Oh, blimey, 3 minutes left and loads of questions. Okay. The Wonders has got a question on counter court judgments and credit checks. Don't know off the top of my head. I don't think they would. Normally, these things will disappear completely off your file, but I'm not 100% on the debt side of things. But again, that information will be out there, so it should be easy to find. I'd imagine probably someone like the Experian website is probably a good place to go. That a big help section there. Groove Champion says, when are you going to do Amazon business cards? One day. I mean, there's so much content that we can produce. Even now, I've got a team for the last year. There's still so many things I want to produce that I haven't got time to do. Broadly speaking, the Amex business cards, if you're eligible for them, they are absolutely worth a look. And potentially, particularly if you're a small independent business sole trader, if you can get them, you're able to get welcome bonuses on those, as well as the ones on the personal account. So that's even more free points or free cashback you might be able to get. So it absolutely will worth a look there. Mario says, what do I think about Plum? I think Plum, the free version, is very good if you want to have that the auto kind of AI style savings, taking money out of your current account into a separate savings pot. Really good way if you're not great at putting money aside for savings anyway, for this kind of little bits to be coming as you go along. However, I would not pay for it for the other features. Don't think that's worth it. And again, investing wise, not something I do. So couldn't give you a proper review of that as an investment and a platform. But certainly, for auto savings, again, I've got a whole article and a video looking at ways to hack your savings, the little tips and tricks and little automatic things that automate savings. That's included in there. I think that's a good option there. Miniman says, what is your take on the current accounts offering no fees when using your current account card abroad? If you aren't getting charged, that's great, because you don't want to be getting charged. Again, whole article, Best Buy's guide on the website, and a video from earlier this year taking you through the top options there. But headline, my top one is the Chase Bank debit card, because it's fee-free to use your debit card abroad, and you earn 1% cashback as long as you meet the criteria the month before. But that's pretty easy. So you're winning twice there. You're not getting hit with charges and you're earning money. There will be times where you might want to use a credit card abroad, though. So again, I always like to have a fee-free debit card and a fee-free credit card with me for those purposes. How many more can we do? Jules says, any thoughts on the Trading 212 debit card? Again, cover that in a video when it first launched earlier this year, and an article, so do watch those. The rates have sort of changed slightly. They've been extended, how long you earn that money for. It's cashback. It's 1.5% until, I think they've extended it to the end of November now. It was until the end of October to the end of November, and it will tell you that when you double check that, because it could be slightly different. But after that, it goes to 0.5%. So what's the point when you can get 1% elsewhere? You know, 0.5% is not as good as 1%, so I wouldn't use it. But when you get a little bit more for a few months, maybe then it's worth a try. William says, regarding premium bonds, if you reinvest your winnings into your bonds, wouldn't the rate be slightly higher than 4.4%, like a saver where the interest compounds? Doesn't quite work like that. And what's really important to say as well with you reinvest your winnings is if you have the full £50,000 in there, which I know won't be too many of you, if you do have the full £50,000 in there, make sure that your winnings are not added back into the account, because you cannot have more than 50k in premium bonds. Make sure they are paid to you and then put them into a savings account to ensure they're earning interest elsewhere. If you keep them in the account and they don't automatically push them out and one of those bonds wins a prize, you won't get that prize. Okay, so it's better off taking those out while you can. Joe says, would you recommend maxing the ISA allowance before maxing premium bonds? I've looked in detail about how premium bonds work and the different options there and why you should take them. So please do check out that video or read that article. But very quickly, most people shouldn't really bother with premium bonds unless they have already maxed out their other allowances. Unless you are like a 45% taxpayer, in which case you don't get any personal savings allowance. So you've got your ISA and then premium bonds. The only other exception there, of course, is if you only have a £20,000 you could put into ISAs in any year, which again is a lot of money. But if you do have a lot of money, you might rather put your investing in there, your investments, your stocks and shares in there for longer term, because again, when they're in there, then you don't ever have to worry about capital gains tax or dividends tax. So there is a reason when actually then cash might be better in a premium bond because you're investing in premium bonds, because there's more to that as well. Oh my goodness, guys, I think I'm going to have to stop. I'm so sorry I didn't get around to everyone on there. Remember, becleverwithyourcash.com/newsletter. That is the best thing you can do, I think, because you get everything we do every single week and do that. Or if you have a question and I haven't answered it, or it comes in the week, then the best place to ask that is our Facebook group. You can probably search for Be Clever Your Cash group within Facebook, or handily go to becleverwithyourcash.com/community. That will just redirect you to the Facebook group. You can apply to join, ask a question. I'm not even sure how many people we've got in there now. I haven't actually looked since I got back from holiday, but we've got like 13 or 14,000 people in there. Loads of really active people. Myself and the team, we're in there as well, answering questions when we can. But when we can't, people like you, many of you watching this right now, you will also be there. I know you do. It's amazing support. I really love how much you guys get involved. They might be able to answer your question. So they're the top two things I suggest you can do from this. I reckon I might try and, if I can, get another one of these in October. Otherwise, it'll be in a month's time, more or less. Guys, thank you so much for watching on YouTube, on Instagram, and I'll see you guys again soon. Bye.